Good morning, Colin and fellow students. Today I will give you a short presentation on heavy metals, fish and human health. There are three parts in my presentation. That's the heavy metal, the fish and the human health. And I will focus more on the human health part. Firstly, we should know what is heavy metals. The definition is as simple as that. Any heavy metals with a specific gravity larger than 5.0 gram per meter cube is divided as a heavy metal, that by WHO. There are a lot of examples in our daily life. For example, the sink tank we are washing, and the cadmium in the battery, and lead and mercury, and so on and so on. So, how can the heavy metal get into our environment? There are many pathways. For example, the atmospheric decomposition, the sewage discharge, and the wastewater, sludge, and urban development, and etc. There are a lot of pathways. But as we look more details into these pathways, we found that most of them are due to the human activities, especially in Hong Kong. The urban development, for example, the construction and the reclamations are the major contributor to the heavy metal get into our environment. And other than heavy metals, actually there are a lot of other organic or inorganic pollutants will get into our environment and pollute our food. And basically, we need some fibers, hydrocarbons, proteins, and the meat for a normal or a standard nutrient intake. Actually, why we select fish for our topic to study? Because as we know, all these pollutants ultimately will accumulate in our water bodies, and all these aquatic organisms will suffer. And we found that fish in Hong Kong is a very important protein sources for our humans, and also fish will contain some beneficial micronutrients that human body cannot produce by itself. For example, the omega-3 and some amino acids. So we choose fish as our study target. As the food web shows that fish in the sea or the freshwater system that can consume a lot of lower trophic level organisms. As we know, the heavy metal contents in the sediments, for example, the benthic organisms will intake a lot of this heavy metal and accumulate into their body. So fish is a higher trophic level organisms, so they will have a higher content, high heavy metal content in their bodies. And actually, heavy metal has three forms. Different forms have varied toxicity effect on human body. We are familiar with this. That's the cones we are using. That is elemental forms of heavy metal. And also we got the ionic forms of heavy metals. And the most toxic form is transferred by the ionic form into human bodies. For example, the methyl mercury is the highly toxic substance to human body. And this is the molecular model of the methyl mercury, and this is the label in the lab. And I have identified some sources, and this is the most important sources for my study because it is from WHO. And according to these sources, we have do some summaries. Here, lists out all the possible effects of heavy metals once they get into our body. The most obvious is the acute toxicity. This heavy metal can cause direct tissue damage, for example, the chromium, and also cause sensitization and irritation in our tissues, and lung toxicity that can the heavy metal can cause mucosal irritation in our lung and causing the respiratory disable. And also manganese, mercury, lead are well known as neurotoxicants in human body. It can lower the IQ of our children and also the adults. Also, in most serious, it causes the reproductive toxicity. In the infant stage, it can cause a malformation of a human body that you will give a normal baby. And finally, they are also the genetic mutants and the carcinogen. And the source 2 is quite relative to my topic because the paper is done in peripheral delta in South China. There are some important findings in this article because the authors found that there are high concentrations, including the 4E elements, heavy metals in the fish, tissue, and the organs. And he also found that there are higher concentrations in marine fish rather than the freshwater fishes. And the third finding is that the concentration in Hong Kong people is higher, is estimated to higher concentration in Hong Kong people than in the people than in USA. That's why that may be a good explanation why Hong Kong has a low shark attack rate. And the source 3 and 4 are done by the same team of people, so they have the similar findings. One is specified in Malaysia, and 2 years later they've done similar research for the whole Southeast Asia. And what implication in these sources? And the authors found that there are a lot of heavy metals present in the fish body and also the organs, including some very toxic ones. For example, the chromium, the manganese, the lead, and the mercury. And because they are acquired samples in some remote area, that means there is no or low human activities in that area, but still they can find these heavy metals in the bodies. So, in other words, that means the heavy metal can transfer in a long distance to some remote area and affect the ecosystem there. And the source 5 is the last one. And the source 5 is done in a nature reserve in France. And actually, the nature reserve is a human activity inhibited area. So we assume that there is no pollution from human activity. But still, the authors can find these heavy metals in their tissue and organs. And also, they look into the tissues and organs. They found the damage of the tissue and organs. And these authors also find that some heavy metals is associated with some effect of the organic pollutants that give an enhancement of the effect or more severe effect if heavy metal is present. So this is here are the 5 sources I identified, and here are some picture reference. So this is the end of our presentation. Thank you.